Hello! I have a different angle today. I am filming from the side instead of the front. So here's my lye solution. It's a little brown, so I'll tell you a little bit later how it actually got that color. So that should be something very interesting, but it did make a challenge for me making this soap. So now I'm adding the kale and clay just to lighten up my oils a little bit before I add in my lye. And then I've added my sodium lactate to help with extra releasing from the mold. So you see I've added in my lye and it's very brown. So I decided to add in some white to lighten it up. And now I'm mixing my colors. So I have all my colors mixed and now I'm adding my fragrance blackberry vanilla. Now here's my mold, and for this soap I'm using a new technique, and this technique is actually you use a straw to make the design. So I'm putting my base in of white, and then I'm pouring in my first color, which is kind of a red pinkish, and now I have my straw. So I'm going to use my squeeze bottle to actually blow air through the straw, and you'll see a little bit later it turns out that this was a really slow way to do it. Now my red was a little bit more fluid, so it worked a little bit more better. But once I get to the yellow had thickened up on me and it was really hard to use the straw to actually move the soap around. So I did the correct way and actually just blow through the straw. Now I ended up using probably about 4 or 5 different straws for this technique, and this technique was for the Soap Challenge Club. So right now what I'm doing is actually blowing through the straw to make my design, and they're supposed to be flowers. I guess they kind of look like flowers. So I am going through and layer upon layer actually making the design. So the purpose of this design, because normally when you make soap you just kind of hope you get the colors you want, or you hope you get the design you want on the inside. But with this technique you are actually designing the soap from the bottom to the top, so you know exactly what patterns you're making inside. So now I actually have a turntable so I can actually turn my soap. So in addition to actually blowing the soap around, I'm also spinning it. So the story about how my lye solution turned brown. For my recipe, I was supposed to use sugar in my lye solution to help with the fluidity of the soap. And as you see, some of the colors were more fluid than others. Well, the recipe calls for powdered sugar. Well, I only have brown sugar, or the natural sugar. And so what am I going to use? Well, I got a bright idea. I know. I'll use what? Agave syrup, right? Because in the bottle it's clear, it's already liquid, I don't have to melt it. Sounds like a win-win to me. Well, it turns out that once you put the agave syrup in a really hot liquid like lye, it turns that pretty coppery brown. So that's how I actually ended up with a brown lye solution, is that once you added the lye to the water, because you put the water in first, then you put your sugar solution, and then you add the lye, and the lye gets very, very hot, and I guess at 100 and something degrees the agave syrup turns brown. So then here I go with the fail soap again, but it actually didn't turn out to be a fail, because I was able to save it with the combination of using the titanium dioxide for the white, as well as my kale and clay that lighten up my oils. And you actually at the end you really can't tell that it was ever a dark coppery brown. But that's the story of how my lye solution got brown. Now here I'm just spinning, and there I just got carried away. I was just spinning soap to my little heart's content. And here again I am using my straw to make the design with the soap. I am making flowers in my head, at least. But yeah, they do look like flowers. And I continue on making the soap with this design and using the side designs. Now here I'm almost to the top. I'm just putting on the finishing touches of my soap, and I was really pleased with it. Actually, it turned out really well. The design took a very long time to actually pour it in and make the designs yourself. I think of course it would be quicker just to do a straight pour instead of designing the soap with the straw, but it was a very unique way to do it, and I was very pleased how it came out. What I really liked about this soap was the texture. I was in love with the texture of the soap, and here I'm putting glitter because everything has to have glitter. You know, the technique is you're supposed to shave off the top, but I didn't care. I needed glitter, and it was going to have glitter. So you see, the texture was very interesting, and I also used a mold that had a texture on the bottom, so I was so in love with the texture that I only ended up shaving one bar of soap, the top off, to actually see what the design was. And you see in the middle the design is very unique, and that's what I designed in the beginning from the top to the bottom. So the sides had a little bit, and the middle had most of the design, and so that's what I had, and I thought it was very interesting. But again, like I said, I was just so in love with the texture, I couldn't bring myself to actually plane off all of the bars of soap. So I just didn't. I did one of them just to see how it would look, but I was very pleased with the soap as is. The design on the top and the texture on the bottom was very nice. So here's what we got. This is some of the finished bars with the texture, and this is the one that I planed off. The design is very unique. I love that one. And here's some more shots. You can actually see all of that detailed texture that the bars have that I just love so much. So I do think this is a great technique. I would definitely use this in the future to create texture within my soap. I'd like to thank all of my subscribers. If you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And I would love to thank you for watching. I thank you so much. Don't forget to like this video, share and subscribe, and hit the alert button as well. And I'd like to say goodbye until next time.